Tell the jury your name.
Scott Swick, S-W-I-C-K.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a Texas Ranger with the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Would you briefly describe your training and experience in law enforcement?
I went through an initial police academy in 2003 before joining DPS in 2005. Through DPS, it's another 6-month police academy. I initially was in the Texas Highway Patrol until 2013 when I became a Texas Highway Patrol sergeant. And then in 2014 I became a Texas Ranger. Through that, on the Ranger Division, there's crime scene, 4th, 5th, 6th Amendment type training more in depth than what you would have in the initial police academy.
And is the crime scene training for you the same as it is for all Texas Rangers?
To a point, the initial is, and then several of us have specialties that we get into that might be different than that.
Okay. On May 24, 2022, did you make it to Uvalde County, Texas, Robb School?
Yes, sir.
And on that day or the next day, were you assigned a specific area to search?
Yes, sir.
And
Mr.
what
Trevor,
area was
can you
that?
use your microphone?
What area were you assigned to search?
Classroom 112.
And have you reviewed the photographs to Classroom 112? Is that a fair and accurate depiction of your work?
Of the work of the team that we're with, yes, sir.
And we re-offer your own the exhibits that were noticed outside the presence of the jury.
Join to our conversation, it's fine.
Yeah, I believe we've made a record on the ones that were admitted, and they are admitted.
Thank you. Starting with Exhibit 756. The exhibit has a yellow marker for one of the rooms. Is that the room 112?
It appears to be, yes, sir.
And is that the room that you searched?
Yes, sir.
And that's the room concerning these photographs?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 757. Could you tell us what we're looking at here?
So the doorway on the left is going to be 112. The doorway on the right is going to be 111. This would be a view as if you were standing in the hallway looking at those exterior door faces.
And did they have an adjoining door within the classroom that you could go back and forth between?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 758.
So this is a close-up view of door 112 that also depicts several bullet defects into that door coming from the exterior towards the interior.
And Exhibit 759.
Once again, another close-up of that just to give you a depiction of the bullet defects I spoke to.
Does 759 depict a window in that door?
Yes, sir.
And what is the condition of the window?
The window has damage due to gunfire, to defects.
And are there gunfire defects in that door?
Yes, sir.
Would you point them out?
Your Honor, may I stand up?
Yes, sir.
So you have a defect here, these circular defects. You have 3 coupled right here. 1 here. Looks to be 1 right there. It's hard to tell here in the glass, but you have several within the glass as well.
Thank you. And can you tell from looking at those defects if they're from the hallway into the room or from the room into the hallway?
The ones in the door face itself, we were able to determine they were from the hallway, from the exterior hallway in towards the interior of the room.
And something kept you from determining the glass breakage, if it was from the hallway or from the room?
It was our determination that day that would have been similar, once again, from the hallway into there. Some of them you could tell by the concave of the glass itself, but some of them you couldn't necessarily tell due to the damage that you had, but it appeared to be consistent with the rest of it, which was exterior to interior.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. In showing you State's Exhibit 780, would you kind of show us the general outlay of the room?
So this would be as if you stepped into the threshold of that room 112 door. So you're standing, if you would, just on the interior side of that, viewing straight down that what would be the wall, the purple wall or the blue wall, you will, on the right, excuse me, would be the south wall. The wall straight ahead with the window in it would be the exterior east wall of that classroom of 112.
And so the wall that's right next to the doorway and goes all the way to the window, that is fairly free of pools of blood, is that correct?
There are blood stains there, but the majority of the blood stains are not in this area.
And the back wall, are they fairly free of pools of blood?
Yes, sir.
And so would you describe for the jury in the room where generally the pools of blood were?
So the areas of blood stains in the room, you can obviously see some on the floor here in front of you in this picture, but the majority of the blood stains that my team located was going to be what would be considered the northwest corner of the room. So once again, if you're looking at this picture back to your left, in that corner of the room.
The corner away from the doors and the windows?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 761. Yes, 761.
This would be a view from the 112 door, but this would be the interior door face. So once again, you're inside room 112, looking at what would be the interior door face of that room door.
And 762.
This is another view of that from a different angle to show you the bullet defects through that door towards the interior of the room.
And is there a bevel on one of those gunshots?
There is. The bevel he's referring to, if you look at the gunshot furthest to the right, it gives that bulge look to it, where you can see where the energy of that projectile going through the door pushes that door frame out. That's what he's referring to.
And Exhibit 763, would you tell us the general location of 763?
So 763 is going to be, once again, you're inside room 112. You're just in front of the entrance of that door we were looking at. You're looking, this is viewing back on the floor, back towards that, that east wall where that window was at. But this is going to be the floor view that you're looking at here.
And does it show things specifically on that floor?
Yes, sir. There are several defects in the floor that you can see, the gray areas that you notice on the floor, which are going to be would appear to be ricochet rounds from projectiles hitting the floor.
And Exhibit 764?
764 is the exterior door face of the closet door inside room 112. What you notice on that door, once again, the gray areas on that door where the paint is peeled back are what appears to be shrapnel defects onto that door.
And is that closet door directly across from the entryway into 112?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit 765.
765 is another view of that door from the lower bottom third of that door, if you will, below the handle.
So the first view was above the door handle, the second view is below the door handle, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Exhibit 766.
766 would be the brick wall, the stone wall that's directly behind where that door you just viewed was. So once again, this is going to be the west wall of that classroom. That's the window, the grayish area is that window that you saw earlier. And this is going to be a picture of what appears to be shrapnel hits on that white brick.
And is it once again directly across from the doorway to 112?
Yes, sir.
And so I believe if you described a pathway from the hallway through the doorway all the way across the room, leaving shrapnel across all the way to the back wall,
Yes, sir.
would that shrapnel and that pathway be dangerous to people in 112?
If somebody was standing there, yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 767.
So 767, once again, this is going to be the interior face of the door. You're inside room 112 looking at that main door entrance. And then down below that, it's a view of evidence marker 1, which for these rooms we use green versicones or evidence markers. So for these purposes, we put a G for green, so G in this case 1. So this would be evidence marker G1 depicting a fired cartridge case.
And Exhibit 768.
It's a close-up view to show the 2 fired cartridge cases of G1.
And quickly, of the cartridge cases, did you find more than one kind of cartridge case in 112?
Yes, sir.
And what was the one single one that was not an LC?
That is correct. There was one singular non-LC22 cartridge case.
And was that found in the teacher's desk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So other than in the teacher's desk, all the fired cartridge casings were LCs
That's correct.
and rifle casings?
For room 112, yes, sir.
Okay. And so I'll just allow you to shorten your testimony then and just say another cartridge casing if you see one.
Yes, sir.
Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Judge, at some point, we want to caution the jury and the audience that some of these pictures are going to be a little gory and bloody.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as throughout the course of this trial, we have some graphic photographs, so once again, be aware of that, and if you need to step outside, you're welcome to do so. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And did you just take the photograph, or were the photographs taken where they were found?
Yes, sir.
Weren't responsible for depositing them there, just accurately depicted where they were?
These photographs are depictions of how we found them when we entered the room and processed that crime scene.
Thank you. Exhibit 769.
769 is another close-up of G1 with a what we call an ABFO scale, or a measurement scale, if you will, that's down below that fired cartridge case.
And 770, is that number? 770, excuse me.
That is appears to be just a close-up of what you showed right there on the G1.
771.
So 771 is a mixture of evidence markers. You have the green ones I referred to that was the evidence we collected. The yellow alphanumeric evidence tents that you see there, those were put there before we were processing the scene. So once again, the rangers and investigators that entered that room prior to our arrival, those alphanumerics depict where bodies were located within that room prior to their removal.
And on the far left side, could you describe what structure we're looking at there?
On the far left side is going to be so that wall would be the hallway wall, or the west wall of that classroom. You have a table that goes the length from where the entry door, room 112 door is, all the way to that, which would be the north wall, with various items on it. And then below it is a black curtain that was essentially there, kind of blocking the view of what was underneath that table, such the supplies and so forth.
Was that table with the black curtain large enough for a person to crawl under?
Yes.
And be away from inside the room?
Potentially, yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 772.
772 is a close-up of a fired cartridge case with the G2 marker.
773.
773 is the G3 marker with a fired cartridge case.
776.
776 is the G4 marker with a fired cartridge case.
778.
778 is the G5 marker close-up with a fired cartridge case.
779.
779 is the G6 marker with 2 fired cartridge cases.
781.
781 is the G7 marker with a fired cartridge case.
And does this marker 7 approach this pool of blood in the corner
Yep.
of the hallway that we saw the Robb view of?
Yes, sir. That is in the north, what would be considered the northwest area of the classroom.
784.
784 is a close-up of a fired cartridge case with G8.
786.
786 is a close-up of a fired cartridge case associated with G9.
787.
787 are several fired cartridge cases associated with G10.
Would you point those out?
Your Honor, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
You've got a cartridge case here and a fired cartridge case here that we went ahead and designated with G10.
Thank you. 790.
790 is a close-up of 2 fired cartridge cases associated with G11.
791.
791 is a fired cartridge case associated with G12.
792.
792 are several cartridge cases that are associated with G13.
794.
794 is a close-up of several cartridge cases that are to the left of G13.
And would you locate those cartridge casings in the room for us?
You're
I
on,
mean,
ma'am.
where would they be in the room?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're asking where they are in the room?
Yes, sir.
Those are going to be, once again, the northwest area of the room. That blue piece of equipment that you see at the top of the picture there was just to the right of that filing cabinet, if you remember, from that corner of that northwest area of the room.
796.
796 is a picture of a fired cartridge case associated with G14.
And are they at the very top of the photograph?
Top and in middle, sir. You've got two at the top and one with the ABFO scale.
One in the middle of the photograph and two at the top.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Exhibit 800.
This is going to be a picture of fired cartridge cases associated with G15.
And is there one under this, underneath of a obstruction?
Yes, sir. You've got one to the left of G15, and then you've got one with the ABFO scale, which is up underneath a piece of equipment that was there inside the room on top of that carpet.
Exhibit 802.
802 is a picture of G17, which at the top of the picture there is a what we call a PMAG magazine, which is what the unfired cartridges would go into for a weapon.
And what was the condition of that magazine?
Empty.
And is there a second marker on there?
There is G16.
And how many rounds does that magazine hold?
30 rounds, sir.
Exhibit 803.
803 is once a close-up of G16, which is a fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 804.
804 is a close-up of G17 depicting that black empty PMAG magazine.
And so after 30 rounds are fired from that mag, what has to happen for the gun to be operational again?
For a weapon to be operational, once you, if you're firing a rifle in this case, you would have to drop this magazine, which eject it from the weapon, if you will, place a new magazine that has unfired cartridges into it, and then put it into battery or put a round into the chamber.
And did you find more than 30 casings in this room?
Yes, sir.
Did that indicate to you whether or not a magazine had been changed?
Yes, sir.
And what was your, that it had been changed?
There were more than 30, which would indicate to me that a magazine had been changed in the room.
Thank you. Exhibit 805.
805 is G18, which depicts fired cartridge cases.
Exhibit 806.
806 has several things in here, starting with G19 at the bottom, depicting the fired cartridge case. G20, which is another picture we'll show, depicts fired cartridge cases on the lip of that whiteboard. And then you have G24, G35, and G39 in that picture also.
And where is the hallway in relationship to this photograph?
The hallway would be, if you would, at a 45, kind of straight ahead. So this wall that you're looking at would be the north wall of the room. So if you follow that wall straight up, that would lead you to that, where the hallway would be in this classroom, or off this classroom.
And as to the backpacks, did you examine the backpacks also?
Yes, sir.
And would you tell the jury what you found?
There were multiple bullet defects inside of these, or through these backpacks.
And those backpacks are hanging almost to the floor, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit 807.
Close-up of G19, which is the fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 808.
This is a close-up of G20 depicting the fired cartridge case on the lip of that whiteboard.
Where normally markers would go.
Yes, sir. I guess you could put markers in that. Yes, sir.
And Exhibit 809.
This is a close-up of G21, which is shows you more fired cartridge cases on the lip of that whiteboard.
Exhibit 812.
812 is a close-up of G22 depicting a fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 814.
814 is a close-up of G23 depicting a fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 815.
815, once again, has several markers in it, marker G14 and marker G24, depicting fired cartridge cases as well as depicting some of the blood in this scene.
And as to the wall depicted in 815, how would you describe the condition of that lower wall?
There are bullet defects in that wall that are going to be, if you see the hooks in that picture, below those hooks, and then some also into that 2x4, if you will, where the hooks are in.
And going back to Exhibit 24, right next to the wall, Exhibit 816.
So G24, this is a close-up of a, what would be copper jacket from a projectile.
Exhibit 817.
817 is a close-up of G25.
And 818.
This is another close-up of G25 showing, once again, a copper jacket from a projectile.
Exhibit 819.
819 shows G26 and then G13 again, as well as some yellow tints in that northwest corner of the classroom.
And would you place this photograph in the room? Where would that be?
The northwest corner of the classroom.
Exhibit 820.
820 is a close-up of G26, which is a fired cartridge case.
823.
823 is a close-up of G27, which is a fired cartridge case.
825.
825 is a close-up of G28, being a fired cartridge case.
826.
826 is a close-up of G29, showing a fired cartridge case next to G11.
829.
829 depicts several things. So this is a black bookcase, if you will, that was to the left, as you're viewing it, to the left of that blue piece of equipment that we talked about a second ago. In this beige area to the left of it, it's showing it being hugged up against that filing cabinet in the northwest corner of the room. This shows both a piece of evidence being G30 and then shows a bullet defect associated in that area depicted as G, once again, for the room we're in, and then BD. Sorry, was it 2B, I believe I'm seeing?
Okay. And were you able to trace the pathway of that defect?
Yes, sir.
And showing you at Exhibit 830, has the black bookshelf now been removed?
Yes, sir.
And what are we looking at now?
So the bottom of the photograph would be the area where the bookshelf is. In fact, you could see the void next to the wall where that bookshelf was at. You have if you're looking at the filing cabinet, the right exterior face of that filing cabinet with several bullet defects on it.
And were you able to tell a general origin of where that shot would have come from?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us about that?
So once again, you got several defects there. The first one I'll start with is the bottom left. You notice it looks like there's some gray area, several marks, if you will, in that. That was determined to be a terminus or an ending point of a projectile, and that grayish coloration you see is what is referred to as lead splash, which essentially is a microscopic portion of that lead projectile striking a surface. To the right, you have another bullet defect that is going from left to, as you're viewing the photograph, from left to right. So in other words, somebody to the left of this photograph, or a projectile, I should say, from the left of this photograph, is coming from that direction into that filing cabinet. And then you have the same thing in that top left one as well.
And does Exhibit 832 show a close-up of the description you just gave us?
Yes, sir.
And would you show us those two things that you just described?
So once again, going to what's labeled as GBD2C, that's the 2C is a corresponding. So a while ago, I referred to 1B and 2B. So the way that we're trained, the way that we depict bullet defects or document bullet defects are if we could tell that they're corresponding. In other words, one bullet defect goes with another bullet defect. We'll also give it an alphanumeric order, so A, B, C, D, to show the order that those defects occurred, if you will. So in this case, it was our belief that 2C was in combination with that 2B that we showed you earlier that was going through that bookshelf that once again led to some lead splash and a terminus dent in that area. To the right there is GBD4A, which we couldn't, in other words, we couldn't find a corresponding prior to, so we went ahead and labeled that with an A to show a perforating defect, which means it's going in through something. In this case, the right exterior side of that bookcase with a trajectory of left to right.
And exhibit 833?
833 is a close-up of what's labeled as GBD5A. I believe it says 5 or 6A. I can't tell from that photograph, which once again is a perforating defect in the side of that cabinet.
And did you also find defects in the front of that same filing cabinet in that northwest corner of the room?
Yes, sir.
Showing you exhibit 835.
So this is going to be a view of GBD6A. Once again, as you're viewing the photograph, you have a trajectory of, in this case, right to left. So in other words, the projectile was coming from the right side of this filing cabinet towards the interior, perforating inside that filing cabinet.
So this defect did not occur from the doorway of 112?
No, sir. This defect would have occurred from interior, inside of the room.
And about where would that have come from?
There's no way to tell that other than to tell you that based on looking at that defect, it's coming from the right side. I can tell you from the view of that, it wouldn't have been deep. It would have been somewhere probably along the wall, what would have been the north wall of that room, in that northwest corner, if you will, or the west side of that room.
So crossing from the doorway all the way over to the other side of the room, that's where that defect would have been fired from?
Yes, sir. It would have come from, yes, sir, inside the room on the west side of that room.
And
Or excuse me,
when you
north side
open
of
the
that room.
filing cabinet, did that give you further indication of the route that bullet took?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
As you open the filing cabinet, did that give you further indication of the route the bullet took?
Yes, sir.
Showing you exhibit 836, what are we looking at here?
So when you're looking at 836, if you look next to that handle, that's the defect you just viewed that we just spoke to. So you can see inside this is manila folders with several documents, but you can see gunshot residue and splash from that bullet that, once again, as it's going through the picture that we saw a while ago, now it's interior inside of this book or this filing cabinet and going through and perforating through that manila envelope.
So the pathway was almost parallel with the front of the
Yes, sir. Once again, coming from that north side of the room.
shelving cabinet, okay?
Yes, sir.
Did not come from the doorway.
No, sir.
Exhibit 837.
837 is a picture of one of the backpacks that was found, and then on this, what would be considered, as you're looking at it, I guess the right side of the backpack, you can see in the mid portion of that backpack a defect.
And 838.
This is a close-up of the defect I spoke to.
Exhibit 839.
So 839 appears to be a picture of G24.
Okay. Is there also depicted in 839 a pink backpack by way of reference?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a pink backpack with a pink and black backpack, yes, sir.
Okay, just north of that is the pink backpack?
Yes, sir. Are you referring to the one at the top of the picture there?
Yes, sir, toward the top, right next to the wall, kind of a pink and blue color.
Yes, sir.
I just asked that for reference for the next exhibit, 840.
It's going to be G35, so the backpack you're referring to, that multicolored pink backpack, and then below that you have a fired cartridge case.
Thank you. Exhibit 841.
So 841 shows a view of G30, which is sitting on top of a rolling piece of equipment for like a TV.
And 842.
This is a close-up to show a PMAG that's partially underneath that equipment that's labeled as G37.
Another one of these magazines.
Yes, sir, an empty magazine.
And what condition was it in?
Empty.
So that's 2 empty magazines holding 30 shells each.
They could hold 30, yes, sir, but there were 2 empty magazines.
Thank you. 845.
So 845 is a picture just forward of that last one. So inside, or if you would, on top of that carpet, but bunched up, shows G38, which is fired cartridge cases.
And 848.
848 is a close-up of G39, which is a fired cartridge case.
849.
849 is a close-up of G40, depicting 2 fired cartridge cases.
850.
850 is a mid-range shot, if you will, of G41, depicting a piece of a projectile.
And 851.
Once again, a close-up of G41 to show you part of that projectile, that fire projectile.
And 852.
852 is a close-up of G42 depicting a fired cartridge case.
854.
854 is a close-up of G43 depicting a fired cartridge case.
855, is that giving us a general location of a desk?
It is, sir.
Did you find anything in that desk?
We did, yes, sir.
Showing you exhibit 856.
So 856 is a picture of one of the pieces of plastic drawers, if you will, that was on that desk. And then you could see that there's a fired cartridge case inside of that drawer, which was open. That's how it was when we found it.
Was this the one that was of a different make?
I'm not sure if this was it or not.
Fair enough. Exhibit 859.
859 is a close-up of that same thing, depicting it with marker G45.
860.
So 860 is a picture of the window on the east side of the room. So once again, if you take yourself back to being inside that room, you just entered door 112 and you're looking straight ahead, and you remember there was a wall with a window on it. So this is going to be that window. When the curtains, the gray curtains, are pulled aside, you can see that there's mini blinds there, and the defects you see appear to be shrapnel defects in that mini blind.
Exhibit 863.
So 863 is a depiction of the north wall in the room, the whiteboard you see on top, a couple backpacks there, but more importantly, you have defects that are both in the wall there, and then once again in that 2x4 portion up underneath that whiteboard.
And would you point out those defects?
Your Honor, ma'am.
Please.
So once again, you have several defects. You have one right here that we're depicting with this picture. There's several other ones there, but this is going to be the one we're referring to in this picture right here.
And exhibit 864.
864, once again, you have a grouping, I should say, of 4 defects labeled there in that same general area.
And 865.
So 865 is showing below that area or in that general area, but you see defects on the wall portion beneath that dry board.
And are there 5 depicted there?
Yes, sir.
And are all of them in general characteristics similar ovals?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
And how about the one on the bottom left?
That one is different as far as the look and how it was deposited there.
Does that indicate to you a different origin, or the weapon was in a different position when that defect occurred?
No, sir, not necessarily. It could have simply been due to a substrate struck prior to going through something to cause that. Not necessarily a different position.
Explain that to us.
So when a bullet is fired from a weapon, in this case a projectile exits the gun, whether that's a pistol, rifle, doesn't matter what it is. Essentially, it goes downrange, if you will, right? It goes forward of that weapon. Generally speaking, it goes in a straight line with a little bit of an arc to it. And if left unimpeded, it'll eventually lose energy and either fall and or strike something forward of it, right? Depending on where you're standing or the angle of the projectile as it exits that weapon will then correlate to what you find for the substrate that it hits. So in other words, if I'm angling to my right, I would expect to find a left to right trajectory of that weapon, right? If I'm angling it from my right side, I would expect to find a right to left trajectory, if that makes sense. If it's a fairly 90-degree circle, well, then that tells me that somebody was shooting essentially perpendicular, if you will, to that substrate. Now, with all that being said, that's a perfect scenario. In other words, it hasn't struck anything. When a bullet travels through things, you heard me say perforating a while ago. Well, perforating means it's gone through a substrate. It's not stopped, it's gone through it. And when a bullet goes through something, it's going to start losing energy. It can start tumbling on its axis, but essentially it's going to give different views, if you will, of how it impacts the subsequent substrates that it strikes as it goes through. So in other words, those perfect circles or those angled defects can then become very ragged, if you will, due to those variables.
So that if a bullet went through a desk, a school desk or something like that, that exited the other side, then a lot of irregularities occur with that.
It could be, yes, sir, absolutely. I would expect to see that, yes, sir.
And did you see indications of that during your search?
Yes, sir.
That bullets went through desks or seats or chairs or other furniture?
It appeared, yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 868.
So 868 is a viewpoint again. Once again, that north wall beneath that whiteboard. This is a view with trajectory rods, which are devices that we can insert into defects to give us angles and routes of travel.
And does that accurately show the routes of travel that y'all decided from doing your crime scene investigation?
Yes, sir.
And Exhibit 870.
So 870 is a depiction of bullet defects on the whiteboard itself.
Thank you. Pass the lecture.
Do you want me to start, Judge, or do you want to?
How long do you anticipate?
Might be a little while with him.
Very vague.
I don't want to hold myself, I don't want to lock myself into a time, Judge. It depends how he answers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take the lunch recess. We'll see you back here. I've had some indications people can't make it back in an hour and 15 minutes, so let's take an hour and a half and try to get back on time. So we'll see you back here at 1:30.